Hakadosh Boker Or Daf Yomi Masechet Makkot Daf Yudzayin Amud Aleph 17a1. We were just speaking about right now that Yosef comes and he says that there's going to be a machloket Tanaim. We're talking about, do you get lashes on tevel, right? Which is going to be tavul for maaser ani by itself, which means, right? We know that the mai is tivuav an ama so we don't know if he actually separated trumot u'masrot. Okay. So Rabbi Eliezer says, "En tzarich likrot et Hashem al maaser ani shel demai." You don't have to separate misafek, and you don't have to be likrot Hashem, which means to say that the maaser ani is in the north and this and all those things that you do. Chachamim come and they say, "Koret Hashem." You do have to do that. Okay, ve'eno tzarich lafrish, and you don't have to separate it. So my love kami palger. Are we not going to say that that is the machloka between Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim? The more savar the Chachamim hold, vadai tovlo. The maaser ani, it's an obligation v'dayin, it's not a safek, and therefore you're going to be tovel the perot if you didn't separate them. So it's mamash like tevel. Why? Because you didn't separate maaser ani. Umor savar v'day enot tovlo, and more, which is Rabbi Eliezer, he holds that perot v'day was not separated maaser ani, so therefore they don't become tevel, and therefore you're allowed to eat it, right? But there's obviously going to be an obligation to come and to separate it and to give it to the anim. So Elmaleh Abaye comes and he says, Yihach if so. See, he comes and he says like this: if you're going to tell me right now, right, that the machloke between them, between Eliezer and Chachamim, is going to be in a safek, yeah. So he comes and he says, so then they should have argued in a vadai, right? What does that mean? In fruits, which for sure were not separated maaser ani, right? And therefore, if you're going to come and you're going to eat them, you get lashes, because according to him, that's the ikar of the machloket, right? Ela, but rather. According to everybody, we're talking about whether it's Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim, Vadai Tovlo, which means like Rabbi Yosef, which means fruits which for sure were not taken maaser ani, is considered tevel, and you get lashes. Remember, tevel means that it's untithed produce, right? Any produce that they were not taken off trumot u'masrot. So maaser ani is part of that count, right? And doctor, while you were away, we went and we had a substitute, right? And we asked him, and he knew it very, very well, right? Ronen, yeah, he knew it very, very well. We asked him when was Maaser Shani. When he said 1, 2, 4, 5. Maaser Ani, he said 3, 6. He knew it very, very well. Huh? Yeah. So therefore, what you saying it was very, very good. Oh, yeah. Vehacha. So here, Behaka mipalge. What is the machloka between them? More savar lo nechshedu amei haaretz al Maaser Ani shel demai. One of them, which is going to say that even the amei haaretz are not going to be suspected not to separate Maaser Ani, even though they're going to be suspected not to separate Maaser Rishon and Maaser Shani. Meaning, it could be that you could come and suspect the guy that he didn't take off Maaser Rishon, Maaser Shani, but Maaser Ani, that everyone was taking off. Kevan de Mamonahu, Afrusha Mafrish. Because since Maaser Ani is only Mamona Aniim, and there's no Isur Achila, so even the Ama'aret separates it in order to take out the Isur of Tevel. And then afterwards he takes it to himself or whatever, because we're not going to suspect for Isur Gezel of Aniim. Other Masrot, they don't separate it at all, right? Because again, then they have to come, they have to give it over to a Kohen, they have to give it over to a Levi, they have to give it to even to themselves, but they have to eat in Yerushalayim. So all those things, right, he is going to be suspected of. Rabbanan Savri, but the rabbis hold, Kevan the Tzricha Leminta, since it's a Tircha, lo mafrish. Once it's a Tircha, it's difficult, meaning that, people have to come, they have to start separating, they have to start doing things. Many times, the second it becomes a tircha, people don't do it. People, they like doing the easy things. Once it becomes a tircha, boom, out, or this, somebody else, they don't do it. Be like Korah, that he said that wife for you. So there's the 2 dots. We're on the 2 dots on Yudzayin Amud Aleph towards right before where it's going to come, and it's going to be wide lines, 3 lines up, okay, from where it becomes wide. Right? Basically like this. How much does a person have to eat of untithed produce of tevel in order to be chayav, and then he's going to get the lashes? So Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, Kol shu. Right? Chachamim come and they say, kezait. Okay? So you have a machloket. Any amount or kezait. Kol shu is any amount or a kezait. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Says Rabbi in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Machloket is bechita. The machloke between Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim is only talking about if somebody is going to eat a chita. Why? Because the chita is kibriyato, if you remember. And therefore, Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, Bechol shu, you're going to be chayav. right? But you ate a birya. You remember a birya is you ate an entity. You ate something which is whole. For example, we spoke about the nimala. The nimala, right, is whole. So once it's whole, even though it's bichlal not a kazait, but by eating one nimala, you're going to be chayav on 5 different avirot, right? Now, if you're going to crush it, or you're going to cut off, right, to dissect one of its membranes, right? So therefore, it's not going to be a birya. So if you're not going to be chayav unless you eat a kazait, so therefore, that's going to be the difference. So he says aval bekem. But for example, if a person's talking about now kemach, right, which is going to be flour of tevel, now kemach is not a birya, so divrei akol, according to everybody, it's going to be a kazait. Meaning whether Rabbi Shimon or Chachamim, they both agree that in order for you to be chayav and to get lashes, it has to be that you ate a kazait. Remember that the majority of the surim in the Torah is a kazait. Okay? Kippur is kotevet, but really, to write it's a kazait. What does that mean? A person comes and eats pig. He doesn't get lashes unless he eats a kazait. Okay, now again, it could be that there's an isur b'cholshu or chetzi shiur asur min Torah, right? But to do with the lashes and the isur doraita, that's going to be always a kazait. Okay, kazait for solids, obviously. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. No, the birya does not need a kazait. Birya kibriyata, meaning the second you come and you have an ant or something which is whole, right, as it is. What one? Yeah. And something which is whole as it is, so therefore it's not going to be obligated. Okay? Fine. So says, one sec. Says, V'Ribbi Yirmiyah Amar Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Kemachloket bazo, kach machloket bazo. He says, no. I argue, just like there's a machloket between Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim in one chita, so too there's going to be a machloket also in kemach. Yeah, in kemach. What does that mean? It's going to be a machloket also in kemach. So he says, right? Yeah. Why? Because he wants to say that the shiur kazait is only because of korban. It's not because of bidiyah. Meaning, when Rabbi Shimon comes and he says in all the surim the chiyuv is malkut is bechol shu, the kazait is only for korban, not for the eating. Okay. Now he wants to say, what's the difference between malkut then and korban? So Rashi already says that it's halakha Moshe Sinai. Okay, so therefore he wants to say that there's a difference between the malkut and a korban. You're right. For you to bring a korban, you need a kazait. But lashes on anything, kolshu. Okay, and it's not nothing to do with the birya. So Tanan, so we're going to come and we're going to learn the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Shimon says Rabbi Shimon to Chachamim, Iatem odimni be'achel nemela. You're not going to be bonded to me if somebody's going to eat a nemela kolshu that he's going to be chayav. Amrulo. They told him because it's like a bria. So he says, also chita is the same thing. Chita in kemachlo. So this is a question against, right? Rabbi Yirmiyah in the name of Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Why? One more time. We just said before that there's going to be a machloket. In the Mishnah, it was machloket Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim. Where was the machloket Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim? By chita. So we came and we said, Rav Bevai comes and he says the name of Shimon Lakish, Shakish, that the machloket is only by chita because it's a bidya, but by kemach it's not a bidya, so there's no machloket. You always need a kazait. Comes Rabbi Yirmiyah and he says, "What are you talking about?" Rabbi Yirmiyah also the name of Shimon Lakish. Again, we see the same thing that we have two students coming, right, and they're arguing what is the shita of Rabbi Shimon Lakish. He comes and he says, right, that what happened? He says, no. The machloket, it's always a machloket. So ask the Gemara, why do you say it's a machloket? Right here, we learned to the Mishnah that everything had to do because of the bidya. So if everything has to do with the bidya, this is a question against Rav Yirmiyah. This is exactly like Rav Bevai, right? Rav Bevai said that there's a difference between bidya and everything else. Kemach and bidya. Rav Yirmiyah said there's no difference. Well, there's no difference. For sure there's a difference. Look, there's a Mishnah. So answers the Gemara, Ledivrehem kamalu. According to them, that's what he told them. What does that mean? He comes and he says like this, Ledidi, meaning many times when you come and you have an argument, many times they'll come and they say Leshitatcha, meaning according to you, right? The way that you're learning. So he comes and he says like this, Ledidi, according to me, afilu kemach nami. Even kemach is the same thing. Meaning according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, kemach and chita, זה בדיוק אותו דבר. Salam Shos. Why? Because at the end of the day, whenever the Torah comes and mentions the obligation, there's a difference between of kazait that's only to do with korban. to do in Malkut is kolshu. Always. That's the shita of Rabbi Shimon according to Rabbi Yirmiyah. But he's saying in their shita, ela ledidchu, right? According to you guys, odul miyat, you're going to admit the chita achat kibriyata, that it is going to be briya achat. It's going to be kibriyata. That means the one grain is going to be like a briya. Yeah. So he comes and he says Rabbanan, and according to Rabbanan, so he says briyat neshama chashuva, chita lo chashuva. Meaning there's going to be a difference between, right, the nemala, right, or anything, and just something that does not have neshama. Meaning, when do we say something is going to be chashuv? Only if you're going to tell me that it's going to be chashuv if it's got a life, if there's something there. Right? One second. So he comes and he says, but, right, anything which does not have a neshama, we don't have that. Yeah, you understand? Meaning here's a chidush, because here we're trying to say, usually whenever we speak about birya, we always speak about whether it's hilchot berachot or other things like that. So they were talking about not live, not something live, obviously. You know, we're talking about an almond, right, which is a birya. Or, for example, we spoke about that the olive is not a birya. Why not? Because you took out the pit. Once you took out the pit, it's not a birya anymore, right? Because it's not whole anymore. So if you could eat a full olive, and according to everybody, you don't need to make a beracha acharona. If you eat the full almond, then you get into a question. Because since it's going to be a birya, right? Do you now get into this problem or not? So therefore, what happens is, right? He comes and he says, that is all to do with hilchot berachot is a separate entity. Here we're talking about when you come and you have a concept of a kezait. We know that in order for you to come and to be chayav, you have to eat a kezait. So when is it enough just to kol shu? He comes and he says when it's only going to be a neshama. So nemala, yes. Chita does not have a neshama. Since chita, even though it's kibriyata, the way that it was created, is a klum, is a shum davar. Yeah, if I take a chita and I cut it in half, is that a bidya? According to everybody, not. Right? It seems like a nemala. I cut a nemala in half, it's nothing. Right? That's the same thing by the olive. When I take out the pit, so now it's not shalem anymore. It's not a full entity because I never eat the pit. So if it's not a bidya, okay, so therefore, almond, yes. We're talking about the actual almond. We're not talking about the outside, right? The outside shell is something different, right? So therefore, he comes and he says, no, zayt is not shalem anymore. The second I take it on a pit, it's no. The almond, the atifa is klum. If you swallow the pits, then it is shalem. If you take it out, then no. Okay? No, for sure you do, because you eat a kezait. The question is, what happens if I eat only one? And it's like a birya, one of them. So if you eat only one, you get into a machloket. Since you eat a birya, maybe it's already chashuv, you have to make a bracha achrona even on one. So if they try to tell you, never eat full. So for example, if you want to eat one almond, cut it, bite it, and once you bite it, that's it. Yeah? So, okay, fine. So Tanya Kabatet Rabbi Yirmiyah, we learned it according to Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, Kol shehu lemakot, anything which is going to obligate you for makot, velo amru kezait el inyan korban. Right? They didn't say a kezait only for korban. So that means this is the shita of, that means at the beginning we thought against Rabbi Yirmiyah, because we were asking a question against Rabbi Yirmiyah from the Mishnah. Now we're bringing a bright in accordance to Rabbi Yirmiyah. That according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, according to him, any amount is for makot. You always get lashes for any amount. Doesn't matter what it is. And the kezait is only for korban. So for example, if you come and you eat a pig, you ate a drop of pig, you get lashes. You're right. Korban is only if it's going to be on kezait. That is the Shitat of Rabbi Shimon. That is not like Chachamim. Chachamim were coming from mitzad bidya or not bidya. Right? And then anyway, they said at the end, it's not going to be a bidya because it doesn't have a neshama. Right? But according to Rabbi Shimon, has nothing to do, right, with that whatsoever. Okay? 1 minute. Kakadosh, again, we're on the Mishnah on Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Ochel bikurim ad shelo kara alehem. Remember this bikurim. What is bikurim? Bikurim are the first fruits. Okay? So remember that the first fruits that grow, they're precious. They're special to you because it's the first ones. You get all excited. Right? So what happens is that you're going to bring them to the Bet HaMikdash. That's called bikurim, and you have to read psukim on them. Okay? Is it parasha? Yeah, parasha Kitavot. Yeah? So he says like this, imagine right now, you come and you bring the bikurim, but you ate them before reading the psukim, parasha bikurim on them. Or you ate, right, kodshe kadashim, chutz klaim. You ate kodesh kodashim outside of the klaim. Remember, kodesh kodashim is the korbanot. So you ate part of the korban outside of the azara of the Bet HaMikdash. Okay, remember, there's kodesh kodashim, kodashim kalim. That's what we learn in the morning, in the korbanot. So therefore, the kodesh kodashim, right, are going to be inside the klaim. Or you ate kodashim kalim ma'aseh sheni outside of the choma, meaning outside of Yerushalayim. Remember, kodashim kalim, shlamim, abechor, v'maaser, v'pesach, right? Kodashim kalim, right? So kodashim kalim, you eat them inside of Jerusalem, but it has to be in the walls of Jerusalem, the choma. Okay, but it doesn't have to be inside the Bet HaMikdash or the Hazara. It's going to be enough only inside of Jerusalem. So if you ate it outside of the walls of Jerusalem, right? So now what's going to happen now? So he says over here like this: Ashover et ha'etzem b'Pesach. We know it says etzem lo tishbiru bo. You're not allowed to break the bones of the Korban Pesach because that's not a sign of hierarchy. It's not a sign of kings. Remember that on Pesach we are kings, so you're not going to start breaking the bones and start eating the bones. Okay, so he says, but you did break it on Pesach, and you're not allowed to. Yeah, you're not allowed to eat the bones. Yeah, hatahor. Yeah, hatahor arez loke arbaim. Yeah, you're going to be loke arbaim, right? Why? Because you were over on right. Ve'etzem lo tishbiru bo. Avala mutir batahor v'ashover batameh en loke arbaim. Right. However, though, if right now you're going to leave over from the korban until the morning, right? Even if it's going to be Pesach tahor, or you're going to break the etzem, right, of a Pesach tameh, eno loke arbaim. You're not going to get the 40 lashes. Okay. Now he comes and he says, right, like this. So in those cases, you got the lashes. In the second cases, which had to do with Korban Pesach, he told you when you get it or when you don't get it. Okay. And now we're going to continue to the next case. Yeah. Just to show you how different people are. Do you know there was a famous machloket of Moshe Feinstein and of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach? If I'm going to come and I'm going to have bone marrow or bones, right, inside of my cholent, inside of the chamin, and then what happens is, right, on Friday night, right, I'm going to come and I'm going to uncover it and then cover it again. Can I do that or not? So Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said for sure not. Could be even in Isur Doraita. And Rav Moshe Feinstein said no problem whatsoever. So they went and they started finding out, like, what's the machloket between them? The machloket between them is that in Eretz Israel, they would eat the bones. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was saying the bones, they take the longest to cook, to become edible. So therefore, you need to cook it in excessive cooking. So therefore, if you're going to come in the middle of the cooking process on Shabbat and you're going to uncover and cover it again, you were just over on Bishul. So if you're going to be chayav. But Moshe Feinstein, he was from America. He was looking at it since when was the last time you ate bones? So for him, right? So therefore, because of that, for him, it was like, what's going on over here? Exactly. So therefore, because of that, right? Because of that, right? They would come and they would have it. Okay? Anotel. No, he's talking about the bone marrow. He's talking about the bone marrow. Tuetano. Yeah. No, but other types of bones also. Other types of bones. Yeah, other types of bones. Hanotel em al habanim. Yeah, they used to eat a lot of bones, right? Hanotel em al habanim. If somebody's going to take the mother bird, right, from the children, okay, Rabbi Yehuda says, loke, he's going to be loke. Yeah, ve'eno meshaleach. And what happens is he gets lashes, and he's not obligated to send away the mother bird now. Chachamim say no. Meshaleach, loke, send it, and you don't get lashes. You remember we already learned this to do with if the aseh comes before or after. You remember this is where we learned this already. So zeh kilal, this is a general rule. Kol mitzvat lo ta'aseh, sheyesh ba kumaseh. Any mitzvat, a negative commandment that it has a kumaseh, that it has a positive commandment, and chayvim aleh, you're not going to be chayav on it, right? Why? Mekayim na'aseh, and you're going to be patul from the malkut. Okay, until here we're clear. Fine. That was the Mishnah. Says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Zo divrei Rabbi Akiva. Right? This is the words of Rabbi Akiva stimata. Right? Which means our Mishnah to do with Bikurim is going in accordance to Rabbi Akiva. Right? That Rabbi used to come and put the Mishnayot according to him. Aval Chachamim omrim, Chachamim come and they argue and they say Bikurim, to do the mitzvah of Bikurim, Hanacha me'akevet bahen. If you didn't put the bikurim in front of the mizbeach, you're not yotzei chovah even b'diavad. V'kriya and me'akevet bahen. And even if you did not read the parasha of the bikurim, you were yotzei chovah b'diavad. So according to this, you're not going to be lokeh unless you ate the bikurim before putting it on the mizbeach. But if you ate them before the kriya, it's not like that, which is the exact opposite of Rabbi Akiva. One more time. Our Mishnah said, if you ate them before the Kriyat Hashem, you're lokeh. But if you ate them before putting them on the Mizbeach, you're not lokeh. Chachamim come and they say, bidiyuk afuch, v'nafochu. Right? The exact opposite. The rabbis say, I don't care about Kriyat Hashem. Meaning it's not that I don't care. Obviously, I have to do it. But meaning that if it's diavad, it's okay, even if I did not do Kriyat Hashem. What it is a problem is zanacha lifnei mizbeach. Right? You have to place them by the mizbeach. That is me'akev. So if I don't put it before the mizbeach, that's my problem, but not the Kriyat Hashem. So says the Gemara, Veleima. So now you just came and you told me that our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Akiva. Veleima zod divrei Rabbi Shimon stimata. Why don't we just say that this is like the shita of Rabbi Shimon stimata? Right? Why? Because Rabbi Shimon came and he said that if you're going to eat the bikurim before the kriyat parasha, you're going to be lokeh, just like our Mishnah, because there's a braita mefureshet that's what Rabbi Shimon holds. So why are you coming and telling me that this Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Akiva? Maybe it's going according to Rabbi Shimon. Why are you telling me Rabbi Akiva? Maybe it's Rabbi Shimon. It says that mefurash like that in Rabbi Shimon, right? So says the Gemara, Hakamash Malan is coming to teach you that Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Tzvile, that Rabbi Akiva is the same shita as Rabbi Shimon. So because of that, instead of mentioning Rabbi Shimon, and we already knew that Rabbi Shimon holds that, we brought down Rabbi Akiva to tell you that Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon, ze oto shita. Yeah, it's the same shita. They hold the same way. Okay? Fine. So, my Rabbi Shimon. What is Rabbi Shimon exactly? Tanya was we learned in the Braita. Listen to this. It says, right? Lo tuchal leechol bisharecha. Right? You're not going to eat in your gates. Right? This is outside of the Yerushalayim. מעשר תגנך ותושך וצריך וכל בקבצריך וכל דנריך שתדור ונביאותיך תרומת ידיך. ותרומת ידיך אלו ביקורים. So it says over there that you're not going to be able to eat, right, outside of Yerushalayim, מעשר תגנך, right, the מעשר. Whether it's of your dagan, tirosh, yitzar, remember it's fruits, right, wine, and oils, right? Each one is a separate, right? The tirosh is the grapes, right? And the yitzar is the oils, right? That's why they have a wine which is called tirosh, and because of that, right? So it's the ganecha, tiroshecha, v'yitzarecha. Each one is a separate thing. Uvchoro bekarecha, so we're talking about the bechor, right? V'chol nedarecha, shedor the nedarim and the devot. Utrumat yadecha. What is trumat yadecha exactly? So trumat yadecha is the bikurim, right? Because when it says yad, it says v'lakacha kohen atene miyadecha v'inicho lifnei mizbach Hashem Elokecha, right? So therefore it says over there, right? Atene miyadecha, yad. So Trumat Yadecha is referring to Bikurim. Okay? So says the Rabbi Shimon, what is this Achila Bikurim coming to teach you? Im leochlan chutz lechoma, if it's going to tell you that you're not allowed to eat the Bikurim outside of the Choma. אתה הבנת מה זה Bikurim? Bikurim is what? The first fruits. So to mean Pri Arishon, Haperot Arishon, there, very precious. So there you have to say thank you to Hashem. Hakarat Tov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you the first thing. Right away, first fruits, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he comes and he says, if it's going to teach you that you're not allowed to eat the Bikurim outside of Yerushalayim, he says, it's Kal V'chomer. What's a Kal V'chomer? Ma'aser HaKal. He says, why? He says, Uma Ma'aser, right? Just like by Ma'aser, HaKal, which is light, but Ma'aser is lighter than Bikurim. Ha'ochlan chutz l'choma, if you're going to eat it, that's which Ma'aser do you have to eat in Yerushalayim? Which Ma'aser? Doctor. Chazak Uruch, Maser Sheni. Maser Sheni. Right? Maser Rishon goes to Levi. He could eat it anywhere he wants. Right? Anywhere in the world. Right? The Maser Rishon goes to the Levi. He could eat it wherever he wants. The Truma Maser is the from the Rishon to the Sheni, which means it goes to the Kohen. The Maser Mina Maser, or Trumat Maser. That goes to the Kohen. The Kohen could eat it anywhere he wants. The Maser Sheni is designated to eat it inside of Yerushalayim, inside of the walls of Yerushalayim. So he comes and he says a Kal V'chomer. Ma Kal V'chomer. Uma Ma'aser Hakal. Right? Just like Maaser, which is lighter than Bikurim, if you're going to come and you're going to eat it, right? He comes and he says, if you're going to eat it, right? outside of the walls of Yerushalayim, you're going to get lashes. Bikurim lo kol sheken. So kal v'chomer than bikurim. Yeah, kal v'chomer. So says the Gemara, haba katuv, right? Ela leochel bibikurim at shelo kara le'en shu lokeh. So he says, so what are we learning from here? We're learning from here that a person gets lashes even if he did not read the name on them. Meaning it says, V'anita v'amarta lifnei Hashem lokecha, right? It's V'anita v'amarta, you have to say things, right? You have to say dvarim on the bikurim. You understand? So therefore, which one? Okay, I don't know if you want to call them blessing. Right, whatever, you have to say things on them, right? So he comes and he says, when we hear where you're going to come and you're going to say these things, if you didn't say it, you get lashes. Where do you learn that from? From here. אם אתה לא אומר את הפסוקים, אם אתה לא אומר את הקריאה, right? If you don't say the קריאה, שמת את זה, אבל אתה עדיין לא אמרת את הפסוקים האלה, לא אמרת את ארמי עובד אבי, right? וכולו וכולו וכולו, all these things. If you didn't say that, you're going to be lokeh. So, okay? So that's the Rabbi Shimon mefurash. So basically, since we know that Rabbi Shimon is the one that says it's mefurash, so therefore Rabbi Akiva also holds like Rabbi Shimon. So when our Gemara said that this goes according to Rabbi Akiva, it's because we already know it goes according to Rabbi Shimon. Our Mishnah. Again, Chachamim argue on Rabbi Shimon. Okay? מה? לא קשור. זה לא קורבן, ביקורים. ונדבותיך. Yeah? He said, no, but if you eat it, you get lashes. Right? So he says, ונדבותיך. What is נדבותיך? זו תודה ושלמים. Right? What is ונדבותיך? תודה and shlamim. Todah is korban todah. Korban todah is a thanksgiving. You're saying thank you to Hashem, and a shlamim is a peace offering. Amar Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, what do I need here? So he says, if you're going to tell me it's to eat outside of the choma, kal v'chomer from maaser. So one more time, we had a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Lo tuchal le'echol b'sharecha." You cannot eat, whether it's going to be maaser deganecha, that's going to be maaser sheni. Now it comes and it says, right? V'chol nidarecha v'nidvotecha. What is nidvotecha? Todah u'shlamim. So he says, why do I need that? Again, I have a kal v'chomer. Learn it from maaser sheni. If maaser sheni is lighter, and maaser sheni, when I come and I eat maaser sheni outside of the walls of Yerushalayim, I get lashes, I get malkut. So kal v'chomer, if you're going to eat todah and shlamim, which is kadashim kalim, outside of Yerushalayim, kal v'chomer, you should get malkut. So why do I need it then? So he says, you know why I need it? To teach you that if you ate the korban after it was brought, but before matan damim, before zrikat damim, before the sprinkling of the blood, we know that after you bring a korban, you take the blood and you sprinkle it onto the mizbeach. And the blood, which is the sprinkling on the mizbeach, right, is going to permit the eating of the korban. Right? That's what does the kapara, that's what does all the things, or the lav davka kapara, because here there's no kapara. What? No, but here it's not metayer. Here there's no tawud. It's todah. It's todah. Right? It's korban todah. The dam is what finishes the process of the korban, the sprinkling of the blood. So here you have a todah. You're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You don't need atonement. You don't need to ta'ara. You don't need nothing. And you're saying thank you. Todah HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hitzalta oti, o ma shaya, ani mevi korban todah. So now without the sprinkling of the blood, I'm not allowed to eat from the korban. If I ate from the korban before the sprinkling of the blood, lashes, malkut. So no, nobody. So he says like this. He says, right, uvchorot. What do you mean now the bechorot? A bechor, I don't know why it didn't go in order. Because the order of the pasuk was, so I don't know why we jumped to nidvotecha before bechorot. But fine. Bechorot is a korban bechor. Amar Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, you know what the bechor is, right? When you have the firstborn of the animal, you have to bring it also as a korban. Okay, so that's called bechor. So he comes and he says, Amar Rabbi Shimon, what is this coming to teach you? Again, if you're going to tell me that you eat the bechor outside of the walls, so again, remember the bechor is also kadashim kalim, just like the shlamim and the todah. Right? When you take the korbanot in the morning and you read, right, we come and we say bechor maaser v'pesach, right, also todah, shlamim, all those things, they're all kadashim kalim. So therefore he comes and he says, right, he says kal v'chomer again. What's the kal v'chomer? From maaser. V'im lifnei zrika, you're going to tell me it's before zrika, kal v'chomer from the todah shlamim. because the Todah and Shlamim are even lighter than the Bechor. The Gemara on Amud Bet is going to explain why each one is lighter. So this is coming to teach you that even if you're going to eat it, right, after the zrika, you still get lashes. Why? Because we know that who's the only one that eats the Bechor? The Kohen. So since the Kohen eats the Bechor, if you eat from the Bechor, even though it's after the sprinkling of the blood, you still get lashes because you're not a Kohen. So therefore you get the lashes. Yeah. What do we say? We said uvchorot bekarecha v'tzonecha. He comes and he says zu chatat v'asham. So bekarecha v'tzonecha is a chatat and asham. Now chatat and asham, what are they? Kadashim, kodshe kadashim. Very good. Kodshe kadashim. The higher level, not kadashim kalim. So it says zu chatat v'asham. Which one? Also an olah. Also, but we didn't speak about olah. Here it says only chatat v'asham. Amar Rabbi Shimon. Says Rabbi Shimon. Ma ba'al zelamdenu. What are we coming to teach you? If it's going to be that you're going to eat them outside of the walls of Yerushalayim, kal v'chomer from Maaser. If it's going to teach you before the zrika, kal v'chomer from Todah v'shlamim. V'im la'achar zrika. If it's going to be after the sprinkling of the blood, kal v'chomer from Bechor. Halo ba katuv ela le'ochel chatat ve'asham afilu la'achar zrika chutz laklaim shu lokeh. Remember, since we said that it's kodshe kadashim, it's you can't eat it in Yerushalayim. You have to eat it inside of the Azara, inside of the Bet HaMikdash area. Right? The area of the Azara. So therefore here it's coming to teach you that even though it was after the sprinkling of the blood, and even though, but it's going to be, it has to be inside of the Bet HaMikdash. That's only once. So therefore that's why you have to eat it. Inside of the Bet HaMikdash. Right? You know why we didn't speak about Olah. Because the Olah, you don't need anything. The entire thing is consumed. Here, the Chatat and Hasham, you do eat something. So obviously, we're talking about something which you could have eaten, because if you ate from the Olah, anyway, you would have gotten lashes. Right? Because anyway, you're not supposed to eat from the Olah at all. Okay? I can hear you. Claim the curtains and the Azara. Yes. Nidarecha. What is Nidarecha? So he says, Zu Olah. Nidarecha is the Olah now. So Amar Rabbi Shimon, what does it come to teach you? If it's coming to teach you, if you eat them outside of the Choma, from Maaser. If it's before the zrika, kal v'chomer Todah and Shlamim. If it's after the zrika, kal v'chomer from the Bechor. And if it's going to be outside of the walls, like outside of the curtains, kal v'chomer chatat v'asham. Halo ba'katuv. So what is the pasuk coming to teach you? Yud Zayin Amud Bet. Ela ochel min ha'olah la'achar zrikat tamim v'afilu mibifnim shehu lokeh. That's what I told you before, doctor. It's a different category in itself, because here, even though you ate it after Matan Damim, and even though you ate it inside Yerushalayim, and even though you ate it inside the Bet HaMikdash, and even though you eat it, doesn't matter. You still get lashes. Why? It's an olah. Olah, nobody's allowed to eat. So the fact that you ate it, you already get lashes. That's why the olah needed its own category in itself to teach you this. Okay, and that's what he's saying, that obviously it's talking about then the darecha. So therefore, that's what happened. So, ma? No. So he says, Amar Rava. Rava comes and he says, Dilma imei, right? So one more time, everyone understood until, by the way, you have a beautiful chart there on the bottom. The chart on the bottom says, Ma'asar deganecha v'tirot shecha v'tzarecha, right, is Ma'aser, right? The Bikurim, they learn from a Kal V'chomer from Ma'aser. The Todah, the Shlamim, they learn a Kal V'chomer Ma'aser. The Bechor, it's Kal V'chomer Ma'aser. Everything else is Kal V'chomer Ma'aser. Meaning like this, there's a few different things here. You have a Ma'aser, which obviously we're talking about Ma'aser Shani. Bikurim, the first fruits. You have Todah U'Shlamim. אתה קורא את זה או לא? כן? אוקיי, לא, אבל תסתכל גם. לא, שתיכם תסתכלו, אבל תסתכלו. Yeah? So he says, תודה ושלמים. מה זה תודה ושלמים? Right? The קורבן תודה ושלמים. The בכור, חטאת והשם and עולה. So now, when you're looking, אכילה בכלל, which is the only one which is אסור באכילה בכלל? עולה. So you go to the end of the chart. עולה. בכל נדדיך שתידור. That is the עולה. You go up one, chutz leklaim. What is going to be asur chutz leklaim? You're allowed to eat maaser sheni outside of the klaim. You're allowed to eat the bechor maaser outside of the klaim. The bikurim, the todah u'shlamim. So what's the only ones you're not? Chatat v'asham, right? Chatat v'asham. Now the olah is a kal v'chomer from chatat v'asham. You continue going up. Azar, a stranger. So we know a stranger is allowed to eat maaser sheni. A stranger is allowed to eat bikurim. A stranger is allowed to eat todah u'shlamim. Who's not allowed to eat? Right? What is a stranger not allowed to eat? The Bechor. So you have the Bechor. Chatat v'asham, kal v'chomer from the bechor. Ola, kal v'chomer from the bechor. Each one continues going back. Everyone understood the chart? Yeah? Fine. Until here, any questions? Amar Rava. So Rava comes and he says, right? Dilida ime kerebi Shimon telid. All the mothers should pray, right, that they should have a child like Rabbi Shimon. Yeah, it's a powerful statement. Yeah. V'im lo tolid. Right? What does that mean? And if not, that they should not give birth. Yeah. Okay. The Ritva says you should take this out because what? If it's not gonna have like Rabbi Shimon, that's it. You're not gonna. Okay, but whatever. Fine. Pircha. Now, even though there's a question, right, on all the drashot that he made, because until now this was all Rabbi Shimon, and it sounded beautiful. He took one pasuk in the Torah, and he basically dissected it, and he said it beautifully. He explained it, mamash, each part, the bechor, and then the maser, and then and the everything beautiful. But there's a question against each one. But still, if you want to have a child, pray that you should have a child like Rabbi Shimon or Yochai. Yeah. So he says why? My chumrah de bikurim maaser. What is the chumrah of bikurim from maaser? We made a kal v'chomer. Remember, whenever you make a kal v'chomer, it means you have to take something light from something heavy. Yeah, you with me? Something light from something heavy. So the question is, right, when you're talking about now the kal v'chomer, right? So he says, what is the chumrah of bikurim more than maaser? So he says, so one second, bikurim, right, and maaser, he's coming to say, are you going to tell me now it's because bikurim is a surah lezarim? What are you talking about? He says, right, because they call the bikurim is called truma. So therefore, it's a surim lezarim like truma. So he comes and he says, Adra, but the exact opposite. He says, maaser is more chamur, sheken asur leonen. An onen is not allowed to eat maaser sheni. But bikurim is mutar for an onen to eat it. Okay? So therefore, right, the exact opposite. So it comes out that there's a chumrah in maaser sheni more than bikurim. So now if I find the chumrah, so then you can do a kal v'chomer. Next one. Umay chumrah de todah shlamim maaser. What was the chumrah of todah and shlamim more than maaser? Sheken tiunim matan damim. You have to sprinkle it on the mizbeach. What does that mean? Maaser sheni, you never have to sprinkle on the mizbeach. Maaser sheni, you come, you bring it to Israel, and you eat it in the walls of Jerusalem. That's it. So he says emurin by legabei mizbeach. So he says, and it also needs emurin on mizbeach. Adra, but the opposite. Maaser sheni is more chamur. Sheken tiunim kesef tzura. Right? It's not going to be redeemed unless it's going to be kesef tzura, which means that in order for you to remember that maaser sheni is your produce. I live in America. Yeah, I'm going to take all my fruits now to Eretz Yisrael. By the time I take it might get spoiled. So what do? I redeem it. And then I have to add a fifth. And then when I come to Yerushalayim, I come and I buy food with it in Yerushalayim and I eat in Yerushalayim. Now, when I redeem it, how do I redeem it? I need kesef tzura. I need a tzurat amatbe'a. I need mamash. I need a coin, right? But that's what it says. V'tzarta kesef biyadecha. So v'tzarta means kesef tzura. So he comes and he says, right? So he says maaser sheni, you need kesef tzura. So he says that's even more chamur because obviously you don't need the kesef tzura to come into how do you call this, to be podea todah and shlamim. So he says, what's the next one, right? Umay chumra de bechor mi todah shlamim. What is the bechor? What is the chumra of the bechor more than todah shlamim? Sheken kedushto menechem. Remember that a bechor is holy from birth. What does that mean? The second she becomes pregnant, it's a bechor, and then when it comes, it's already menechem. It's not like a todah shlamim. Todah shlamim only afterwards you come and you designate this is a korban todah, this is a korban shlamim, zeh shlamim, zeh todah. So he says adara, but the opposite. Todah shlamim chamurim. Todah and shlamim are going to be more chamur. Sheken tiunim smicha u'nesachim u'trufat chazeh v'shok. He says the korban todah and shlamim is more, but even though you're right, it's not kadosh merechem. But what do you have to do to the todah and shlamim? Todah and shlamim you have to do semicha. Mazeh semicha? You lean on the animal, right? You have to do nesachim. What is nesachim? Wine libations. Very good. Trufat chazeh v'shok. Mazeh trufat chazeh v'shok? The waving of the thigh and the chest and the thigh. Okay, so all these things, this you only have by a todah and shlamim. You don't have a bechor. Umay chumrah de chatat ve'asham bechor. What's the chumrah of chatat and asham more than bechor? Kadashei kadashim. Remember, bechor kadashim kalim. Chatat ve'asham kadashei kadashim. He says adara, but the opposite. Bechor chamur, sheken kedushto menechem. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still kadosh menechem. So you're right. One of them is kadosh kadoshim, but the other one is kadosh from birth. So maybe you're going to tell me it's much holier, right? But it's mamash from birth already. He's holy. Umay chumra deola mechatat v'asham. What's the chumra v'nola more than in a chatat and asham? Sheken ola kalil. The ola is completely burnt. It's completely consumed on the mizbeach. He says adara, but the opposite. Chatat v'asham chamir sheken mechapre. Chatat v'asham is yoter tova. You know why? It's a kapara. Chatat is if you did something accidentally. Asham is a guilt offering if you did it purposely, right? So chatat is an accidental korban, meaning if you did it b'shogeg, and an asham if you did it on purpose, right? There's a guilt offering. So he comes and he says that's mechaper. It's not like the olah. So he says v'kulu chamir meolah. All of them are going to be more chamur meolah. Because there's two achilot. There's achila on the mizbeach and achilat basar alidei kohanim. The olah is only achila by the mizbeach. You understood? So basically what we just did was the Anamud Aleph, we just kept on coming one kal v'chomer, another kal v'chomer, another kal v'chomer, another kal v'chomer. What we just did was we destroyed every kal v'chomer. Every kal v'chomer we destroyed. Why do we destroy it? Because a kal v'chomer has to be that it's going to be lenient, more lenient. Here I found the stringency on every single one. So there's no leniency. Right? You're right. There is a leniency, but there's also stringency. So I can't learn a kavachomer. So he says, Elamai dilidai mek Rabbi Shimon. So then, Ribbono Shalom, if I just came now and I just destroyed every single kavachomer, meaning everything that he just said, I just, destroyed. So why did it say that everyone should have a child, pray to have a child like Rabbi Shimon? That doesn't make sense. If imagine right now you come and you give me a bomb, and I say, wow, should always pray that you should have children like you. But if you're gonna give me the bomb and I destroy it 20 times more, you're gonna tell me, hey, what's going on over here? So he says, right? He says because according to Rabbi Shimon, he holds that the olah is more chamur than a chatat v'asham. They're more chamur than bechor. That's more chamur than a todah shamin. That's more the bechor than the maaser sheni. Mesares lelikra v'darish le. He's saying you're going to be me'apech the pasuk, and you have to do it in a proper way. Because if you're going to be me'apech the pasuk, you couldn't have been doresh from the pasuk. These isurim. So basically, it says over here like this. If you look in the footnote, he says, "Ilu haya doresh the pasuk lefi seder hakatuv." You remember I asked you at the beginning. I said I don't know why he's putting it out of order. Now you just got the answer. Listen to what he's saying. He says, if you would be the doresh the pasuk according to the pasuk, the way that it's written, which is first maaser sheni, then bechor, then chatat, right, evasham, and then you have the olah, and then you have the todah shamim, and then you have the bikurim. So then lo yachol lidrosh isurim elu bechol echad. You wouldn't have been able to do it. Right, what did I tell you? Again, one more time. The pasuk. The pasuk says, "Lo tuchal lechol bisharecha," which is outside of Yerushalayim, outside the city. Ma'asar deganecha v'tiroshcha v'tzarecha. What is that? Maaser sheni. Uvchorot. What is uvchorot? Right, is the bechor. Right, bekarecha v'tzonecha. Right, is talking about the chatat v'asham. V'chol nedarecha is the olah. Right, v'chol nedarecha shetidor. Sorry, is the olah. V'nidvotecha is the nedava was the todah and shlamim, and utrumat yadecha was bikurim. Correct or not? The truth is you have it in the chart. Go back to the chart. What was that chart? Go to the chart. Yeah, on the chart, what do you have? Maaser, you have chutza chuma. Yeah, what is maaser? Maaser din chol v'shol tzovelecha. Bikurim, utrumat yadecha. Todah u'shlamim, nidvotecha. Bechorot is bechor. Bekarecha v'tzonecha, chatat v'asham. V'chol nedarecha shetidor, right, is the olah. You have each one, meaning each one you have the pasuk there. So he comes and he says, you wouldn't have been able to learn it from here. Because if you would be doresh first the bechor, which is brought down next, so then you can't learn, right, going upwards. Meaning you would have taken the bechor, right? The bechor is mentioned second. So if you would have taken the bechor, I don't have the order. He had to do it in this order to make the ladder. Everyone sees the ladder. Look at the ladder, right? Maaser is the first one. Bikurim you have two, right? Todah shlamim again you have two, but it's thing. You have bechor 3, chatat v'asham you have 4, the olah 5. You have a ladder. You're going down a ladder. You've got the, you understand? You're including him. Okay, so because of that, what happens is, right, is that he had to be doresh the pasuk in such a fashion in order to do that. So he comes and he says, right, and that's why he says, if it's going to be to teach you that you eat outside of the chumah, kal v'chol maaset, before zrika, the shlamim, because if not, then we wouldn't have known that. So he has to be mesares the pasuk to be doresh. That's why he had to have such a chumah in order to do this. Because if not, then it wouldn't have been right. It wouldn't have been good in such a fashion. Ask the Gemara, v'chi mazidim minadim. He says, 1 second, can you learn a kal v'chomer? You remember that we learned that whenever you want to get lashes, right? כשרוצים לתת מלכות, אתה צריך אזהרה. אזהרה, אתה לא יכול לעשות, אתה לא יכול לתת אזהרה מהקל וחומר. קל וחומר, I want to punish you. קל וחומר. הם מזהים מן הדין. אפילו even according to the mandama עונשים מן הדין, that we do punish מן הדין, but we says, אבל הם מזהירים מן הדין, but you don't give an azara מן הדין, meaning there's two things. There's the azara and there's punishment. So there's a machloket, can you do haim mazirim minadin or not? He says, even according to the mandamar that onshi minadin, right? Remember, and even that is a machloket. The machloket even onshi minadin or not. Onshi minadin means, can I learn a punishment from a kal v'chomer? So even there it's a machloket. Even according to the mandamar that onshi minadin, but en mazirim minadin, meaning you still need a warning. You cannot just say, it's a kal v'chomer. You should have understood the warning anyway. No. Warnings you always need. You're right. Punishment is machloket, and that. But even according to the mandamar, monshi minadin, he says emazli minadin. So says the Gemara, you're right. Liisura be'alma. We're only talking about the isur, right? That means a isur. We're not talking about the actual lashes, because you can't give lashes. We're talking about the isur. So says the Gemara, how could that be? Rava says, zar shachal min haolah lifnei zrika chutz lachoma. Rabbi Shimon loke chamesh. I don't want you guys to look inside. Tell me outside, right? What we just learned. But 1 second, we're almost done. So he says, the Rava comes and he says, Azar, a stranger that eats from the Olah before the Zrika, according to Shimon, is going to be look at 5. Why? Zar is strike number 1. Why is Zar strike number 1? He's a stranger, he's not a Kohen. So therefore, it's strike number 1. Number 2, he ate the Olah. The Olah is Olah Kalil, completely consumed in Mizbeach. Strike number 2, nobody's allowed to eat from the Olah. Number 3, lifnei zrika, they didn't sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. That's strike number 3. Strike number 4 and 5 is together, which is going to be chutz choma, because remember that since it's kachek kadashim, the olah, you have to eat it inside of the klaim. Here, not only did he eat it outside of the klaim, which is already strike number 1, he ate it outside of Yerushalayim, which is strike number 2. So therefore, it's going to be 5 in total. So therefore, here we're going to say that it comes out, right, that what? This writer is telling you that the mekor of the Arba'i Yisurim, the first ones, is through a kal v'chomer. But that's how we learned it. If you look in the chart again, you have again Isulav, and again these are all kal v'chomers. So he comes and he says Chamisha Isurin havu. So the kavanah of Rava is that there's 5 Isurim, meaning even though it said lokeh chamesh, he gets 5 lashes, 5 sets of lashes. It's not lokeh chamesh. He's over al chamisha isurim. Because again, you just said that you cannot punish, right, unless you warn. So you cannot punish from a kal v'chomer. So that's why he does it. So but we learned in the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek Elu en Elokim. And there it says also before the bikurim or ochel kodesh kedoshim chutz hazara. Now, if you're going to tell me now that it's talking about the thing, so what's going on then? So he says you're right. This pasuk is extra, and that's why it's coming to teach you that there's extra Yisurim Nosafim in order to come and to get the lashes.